Hello, Carolina. Hi, Andrea. Whoa, lots of people. That makes me nervous. I was okay with the webinar. Then Disal told me, oh, it's okay. Only 547 people. I said, what? Five? That's freaking scary. Okay. Hi there. Hello, Renata Rocha. Nice to see. Nice to read some nice and familiar names in here. Okay, I think we have to start. Otherwise, I won't have time to finish. People from Piracicaba. I love Piracicaba. São Paulo. Very nice, very nice. Letícia Lanius. Good to see you. Salvador. Salvator. Canela. Oh, that's okay. Florida. São Roque. I was born in São Roque, the land of rock and roll. Okay, Saint Roque. Okay. All right. Let's start. Let's get started. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank Faculdade Cultura Inglesa and thank Disal for inviting me to be talking with you. By the way, do you know about if you want to know more about Faculdade Cultura Inglesa courses, and we have some online courses, some free courses in this pandemic times. So you just click here on the top of your screen and after the webinar, of course, okay? And then you'll be directed to Faculdade Cultura Inglesa's website. Okay, there are lots of interesting things over there. If I were you, I would pay a visit. Okay. All right. We have people from Panama. Oh gosh, very nice. I thought it was only in Brazil. Okay. I hope you all enjoy this hour that we are going to be together. Okay. I think I'll be I'm getting used to teach online classes and to give webinars, because nowadays we do that all day long. Last semester I had a course that was 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours after lunch. So my lives were longer than Gustavo Lima's lives, etc. So getting used to it. Okay. All right. Let's get started. Distance education and emergency remote teaching. Same war, different battles. All right. Let's start with some art. Let's talk about art. I'm sure you are familiar with Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, okay? But I have a situation for you, all right? Imagine Leonardo da Vinci was an art student and that his painting lessons were interrupted due to the pandemic, okay? But before he could finish Mona Lisa. Now, what happened? Don't worry. Leonardo da Vinci was in a very good school, and he was assigned an online tutor to help him finish his painting, to help finish his painting lessons. Okay, and some of the instructions, some of the directions given to Leonardo da Vinci was given via WhatsApp. So do you want to check part of the interaction between the online tutor and Leonardo da Vinci? Okay, then we have this. No, put more color in the background. Okay, Leonardo, okay, that's better. Good job. No, not a field. Maybe a river is better. I love rivers. Do you, Leonardo? Great. Now the smile on her face. Let's think. No, not very happy. Enigmatic. Can you try it? Enigmatic. Leonardo, are you there? Are you still there? Oh, okay. I thought you were offline. Okay, get back to the smile, will you? Okay, yeah, the smile, enigmatic smile. No, 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 no. No, don't you dare changing the hairstyle. What? Earrings? No use, because, oh, that's why you think she needs a haircut. No, no, no earrings, the same haircut. We'd better not change it. Oh dear, time's up. So I see you tomorrow, Leonardo, and try to finish the enigmatic expression, okay? See you. And then we have the final painting. Okay, any similarities with our situation? Me. When the pandemic started and we could not teach our students anymore face to face, we were told to do something, and we did it. As a matter of fact, we have been doing lots of things. But what have we been doing? Is it distance education or emergency remote teaching? So in this webinar, I will share some of the characteristics of the distance learning and emergency remote teaching so that we can reflect about the title for this presentation, Same War, Different Weapons. Okay? All right. In order to start, what war are we talking about? Basically, education, when we talk about education, the common view, the tradition of education puts teacher and students in the same room, looking at each other, interacting to each other, okay? That, just a minute in here, okay, just a minute. Everything was going so fine, okay. Having teacher and students in the same room was something that is familiar to all teachers, okay? But then the pandemic put our students away from us, okay? And then some people find it difficult to engage students when they are away from us, when they are not in the same room, okay? So that's why I use the word war. First of all, to make the title more interesting, same war, different battles, this kind of, violent scenes, action scenes. Second, because it's a kind of war. It's this not having students in the same room kind of brings some challenges to us. Okay, when we have students in the same room, some teachers, they use this time, they use this setting to pour information, just like banking education that Paulo Freire used to talk about, okay? Just pouring automatically information into a student's head. In some other settings, teachers, they build knowledge dialogically with the students. And when I use the term dialogically in here, I mean, I refer to Paulo Freire and Bakhtin, okay? Despite the beliefs you have about education, despite the learning theories involved, okay, when we are in the same room with the students, things are more familiar to us, okay? Not having the students in the same room, it's a kind of war, it's a kind of a challenge, okay? Now, what is this challenge about? I mean, what are some of the aspects related to this challenge of not having the students in the same room? Some of the challenges related to the engagement of online students are not in an order, okay? They pop up in my brain, in my mind. Organization issues, both students and teachers. It's very hard to get organized sometimes for distance education or for online classes, okay, remote classes, lessons. It's difficult to control time. It's difficult to have, a focus, the right focus and concentration to finish tasks if teachers are not asking us or if our bosses are not telling us what to do sometimes. So time management is an issue. Sometimes we spend hours in a task and then we don't have minutes to finish the following assignment. Otherwise, on the other hand, for teachers, for example, sometimes we work almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay, because it's very difficult to get ready, prepare to teach online lessons, okay. Technological issues, different gadgets, internet band, etc. Okay, some public school teachers in Brazil, they're teaching online, they're teaching remote lessons, they're trying to send activities to students, get in touch, interact with students. And some of those students, they don't have fancy gadgets, they don't have iPads, or they don't have, a nice cell phone. So sometimes the internet band is just the Wi-Fi they hack from their neighbors or from an organization, NGO organization. Okay, so these technological issues, both for teachers and students, is a kind of a challenge that we face when we try to engage our online students. Besides, we have face-to-face, social and physical bound. Okay, when we are in the same room with students, social and physical bound are easily attained. So it's easy to talk to students. They are there. You can see their faces. You have a bond established. When we are online, sometimes we don't see students because if they turn their cameras, we cannot listen to them. So it's kind of difficult sometimes. Learning platforms. If some people use Moodle, for example, other people use different platforms, have Teams, have Zoom, etc. Those which are not learning platforms, but they help us get to our students. Those platforms, not always are they, friendly. So sometimes people get into Moodle, they don't know where to go, where to click, what to do, what can be done on Moodle. So that happens a lot, and that's a challenge we have to face. Okay, we have to explain much more. We have to be much more clear in what we are going to do, in what we want to do, and how students can do the things we ask them to. Okay. Otherwise, they feel like stupid. They say, "Oh, that's not for me. I'm stupid." No, you are not. Things are not that clear. Okay, and we have to, not for us, not for the students, and we have to make that clear for students. Another challenge: follow up and support issues along the process. As I told you before, when we are in the classroom and we ask a question, okay, we can see, okay, right away if students got the question, if they understood what you're asking. Okay, some students, they make those funny faces, oh, it's not clear, and then you rephrase the question, you ask again, you change the words. Okay, you explain yourself a little bit better. All right. When we are teaching online groups via Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, even WhatsApp, we don't have these feelings. Okay, we don't have this feedback from our students, so it's kind of hard for us to know if they are in need of some additional support. Okay. So this kind of it's kind of difficult. Different personalities, styles, and preferences. Sometimes people feel shy. They don't want to turn their cameras on. I've just read some of the questions in here. It's kind of hard try to talk, explain, read my notes, and see the questions. Okay, so I'm sorry for not reading all the questions, but one of here that popped up is related to this. Okay, different personalities and styles and preferences. Some people prefer not to turn their cameras on. Okay, and depending on the situation, it's okay. All right, I cannot force my students to turn the cameras on. If you're teaching public school students, sometimes they do not have cameras at all. Okay, so we have to deal with what we have. Not the ideal situation, but what we have in hand. Okay, if they do not have their cameras, I'll be happy if they can talk, listen to me, and take part in the activities. Okay, but some people, they have different personalities. They prefer not to say anything when they're online. Other students, they love to speak. Okay, so sometimes I have my face-to-face students, they used to talk a lot. In the online lessons, they would not say a word. We have the opposite as well. Some people who feels that being behind a computer is a kind of a mask, kind of a shield, and they talk much more than they used to in the face-to-face lessons. Okay, so those different personalities, styles, and preferences, they are issues when we are talking about engagement of online students. And to finish this list, the resignification of some terms which were familiar to us, among them participation and silence. When I don't know about you, but when I'm teaching, a silent classroom is hell for me. I love when students talk. I love when they interact with me. Okay, so having the students in silence, sometimes it's scary. All right, and besides participation, sometimes you ask a question, students participate, they answer to you. So this kind of participation and silence we have in face-to-face lessons changes a lot when we get to online settings. Okay, so those are some of the challenges. I do not have answers for you that we face when we have online students. Okay. Anyways, in some different ways, when we could not teach our students anymore when the pandemic started, we had to deal with this. Okay, and since we're dealing with online students who are not physically in our room, we are working with distance education. That was a common feeling that we had at the beginning. Okay, the pandemic started. Now you cannot teach your face-to-face lessons anymore. So a common feeling appeared to teachers. Okay, so if we are not teaching students right away face-to-face, we are dealing with distance education. But that beginning is still difficult. But at that beginning, at that moment when everything started, that was very much. It was harder than it is today. It was brand new, right? Brand new. So everybody started to have bad feelings about distance education. Distance education in the media, for teachers, for students, for parents, for school managers, became hell, became evil. And distance education can be very, very nice. Okay, so thank God, some researchers, we're going to talk about their names later, they came with answers. They came with a reflection. What we were doing when pandemic started was not distance education. It was something different. It was emergency remote teaching. So in here, what we are going to do, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about both. First of all, I'm going to talk about distance education, and later about remote teaching, emergency remote teaching, so that we can have an idea of the differences between those two models, okay, those two phenomena, okay, so that we can, have a clearer view of what we are doing in our lessons, okay? To start with, I'm going to talk about distance education. What is distance education? What are its characteristics? Where do they live? What do they eat? Okay, so in order to talk to you about distance education, I based myself on some books, of course, but mainly in Santos da Silva, Gestão de AD. Okay, First of all, when we look at distance education, we have to look at from different perspectives, okay? I'm going to bring you 3 of them. See my Faculdade Cultura Inglesa bottle? Very nice. From a legal perspective, online education is not only a simple activity, that is. From a legal point of view, there is a whole set of laws and regulations related to distance education that we need to pay attention to, okay? Not every institution can work with distance education. For example, some colleges, they are not allowed to teach distance education courses unless they have okay from Mackey, okay? As I said here, colleges and universities who offer distance education courses, they need to go through a very thorough evaluation process conducted by MAC, which includes having a project, having the means, certified teachers, among other demands. We have to prove that we have the right technology, that we have the right infrastructure. I mean, there are lots of things that we need to prove, that we need to show MAC in order to have the permission, the certification to teach distance education courses, okay? From an institutional perspective, okay, then we have to think from the school's perspective, okay? If you own a school, if you own a college, if you are the manager of an educational institution, in order to teach distance education, in order to use distance education, you have to have a model. What model of distance education are you going to use? Are you going to broadcast lessons and have teachers answering questions? Are you going to base your courses on texts, pre-recorded videos, and multiple choice questions and answers, and online forums? Are you going to have Google tools in order to help you, and then you're not going to focus on student-teacher interaction because you're going to have to pay a lot of teachers? No, they are just going to interact with some teachers who will handle 150 students each. Okay, so there are different models of teacher education, of teacher distance teaching, distance education. Okay, so the school, the institution, they have to define, they have to come to a conclusion. What model are they going to work with? What's the target public? Who is going to be the students? Are going to be class A students, class B, D, C? I mean, what kind of students are we talking about? What are their needs? What are their characteristics? Amount and organization of centers, distance education centers, what we call in Brazil polos. Are we going to have distance education centers spread in the state of São Paulo, in Brazil? Are we going to have some in Panama, in Pouso Alegre, in Piracicaba, in São Roque? I mean, what numbers? How are they going to, what kind of centers are we going to have? Are we going to hire a teacher, okay, to be there while students are in the center? Or the students are just go to the center to have access to a computer with the online lessons, okay? That's something that the schools, the institutions, they need to think about. Infrastructure. Does the institution have the necessary infrastructure to broadcast the lessons? Okay, that's why you need to think of the model to plan your infrastructure. Okay, in the centers, how many computers are going to have? Are they going to have access to public and paid libraries? Okay, this is also part of the infrastructure. And also the infrastructure that the students are going to need to access the content and to access the courses. Students support. what kind of support is going to be provided to students. For example, I've been to an institution in Curitiba. They had a kind of a pedagogical academic call center. Okay, so they broadcasted live lessons, and the students would get contact the call center to clarify their doubts, etc. So according to the number, they would direct the students call to, okay, a letras course student or an engineering course student. So they would go to engineers and or letras teachers so that they could answer specifically to students' questions. But what kind of support? That's a lot of trouble to think about. Structure of the courses. What kind of courses are we going to have? Okay, the nature of teaching materials. Okay, are they going? Is the institution going to pay writers to write books or apostillas or handouts for students, or all materials are going to be based on the online lessons teachers are going to record and upload it into a server? Okay, what kind of teaching materials? Schools are going to have a list of books students are going to buy, or schools and institutions are going to send somehow PDFs for students to read. Okay, and media and technology selection. What kind of media is going to be used? Okay, are lessons going to be uploaded into a private YouTube channel? Okay, or lessons are going to be videos are going to be inside Moodle or any other learning management system, and students are going to get into the system in order to watch the lessons, to observe the lessons. Okay, so these are some of the institutional issues that are related to the offer of distance education courses. And third, last but not least, from an academic point of view, of course, okay, we cannot forget that when we talk about distance education, we are talking about education. And when we talk about education, we have teaching and learning going on, hopefully. So from an academic point of view, there are also important decisions to be made. The learning model, okay, what learning model are we going to use? Is it going to be a dialogical or a more constructivist learning model? Then we're going to need more teachers, or the ratio is students per teacher is going to be different. Or we are going to work with what Paulo Freire called banking education, okay, in which hundreds of students are going to watch one video and answer and reply to some multiple choice questions. Okay, that's a very important definition. Okay, is it going to be people based or system based? The kind of teaching material and reference materials we're going to have. Again, are we going to work with original books, or to books written by hired authors, which will be available or sold by the institution? For example, some online courses, they don't ask students to read, for example, Paulo Freire's book. Okay, they will have somebody hired to write about Paulo Freire's book, and then the students will read about Paulo Freire, but will not read the original books. Okay, who's going to teach? Okay, is it going to be a teacher, a professor, a tutor, an instructor? Okay, I have lots of differences among those profiles, right? Some courses, they have a head teacher who is a professor, and they have tutors who are assistant teachers, let's say, assistant tutors who will help teachers in dealing with bureaucratic or some basic questions students may have, okay? But those models vary a lot. Teachers support. What kind of support do teachers have? Okay, because teachers, I don't know if you know, but teachers sometimes they have questions. Okay, and that is very important. Who's going to help teachers to carry on with their online lessons, with their online education programs? Teaching techniques to be used, depending on the media and depending on the platforms we have, we may have different teaching techniques. Okay, so what kind of teaching techniques are we going to use? Are we going to have collaborative assignments for students, or we are going just going to get in online to give lectures, for example? So what kind of techniques are going to be available for us teachers? And that depends a lot on the learning model. Expected is students' participation. Okay, what kind of participation do you expect the students to have? If you have 257 students within the same discussion forum, you please do not expect everybody to be, very active in the forum. Otherwise, you're going to go nuts. All right. So, what kind of participation do you expect from students? All right. How will teachers control students' participation? Okay. As I told you, if you have 257 students within a forum, okay, do you expect teachers to reply to all messages? It's impossible, isn't it? Okay, so that has to be clear. Expect the teacher's participation. Okay, our teachers there only to give lectures or to manage, to mediate, to work on the mediation of those online courses. And the model of evaluation to be conducted. Okay, usually when you have distance education, according to MAC's regulation, at least one evaluation, one test has to be face-to-face. Okay, so if you are in Panama, you have to come to São Paulo, okay, to take a test, a face-to-face test. All right, that's a MAC's regulation, so there is no way out of it. However, the evaluation process is not, limited or restricted to those final tests. You may have different evaluation tools. Okay, what model is it going to be? A summative or a formative one? Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of things you have to think about and work on in order to have a distance education. All right, and what happened when the pandemic started, when we had the breakdown, the pandemic, is that we did not have these aspects thought about. That's why I say that we did not have a distance education going on. We had emergency remote teaching. And then we have this, there's a text, okay, which, was very important for us teachers at this time. The link is here and the reference is here on the screen, okay? And this presentation will be available for you later, okay, afterwards, so you can refer to it, okay? But if you type on Google emergency remote teaching, they will lead you to this article, okay? So they start to make the difference. What we have now and what is distance education, okay? Because a lot of teachers, they were feeling, very bad because everybody said, oh, because you can work with your students, with your online students from a distance, and it will work based on the experience they have on distance education. And they were doing lots of things and things were not going well. So they were, feeling, what am I doing wrong? This kind of things, okay? So when this article came, when we read about it, we said, oh, thank God, I thought the problem was with myself. And not always the problems are with teachers, okay? So about teachers, okay, about the about this situation. There is a very nice passage in the text that says that teachers felt instructional MacGyvers. Do you remember MacGyver? I don't know if you do, but MacGyver was a kind of a man who could do anything with the pen. Okay, he would kill somebody, build a bomb, etc., with only a pen. Okay. So teachers felt like instructional MacGyvers, having to improvise quick solution in less than ideal circumstances. No matter how clever a solution might be, and some are very, very, very clever solutions are emerging, many instructors, understandably found this process very stressful. Okay. But what is emergency remote teaching? Okay, having in mind that we were trying to do something, we are trying to keep students alive, we were trying to have students, in our rooms learning something, showing themselves that they were, somehow with us on the same page. Okay. We did many things. Some of them worked out, some of them did not work out. So they came with a definition that made me more relaxing in relation to what I was trying to do. Okay, and I felt many of the teachers who I work at this text with, they felt relieved. So I thought it was with me. So what is the definition they bring in relation to emergency remote teaching? They say that in contrast to experiences that are planned from the beginning and designed to be online, okay, emergency remote teaching is a temporary shift of instructional delivery to an alternate delivery mode due to a crisis circumstances. And here, when they talk about emergency remote teaching, we bring it to our situation of the pandemic. But in some situations, you have war, and you have the same kind of thinking, the same kind of reflection. Okay, could be brought into this war scenery. Okay, so emergency can be a war, can be a flood, a hurricane, or a pandemic. All right. So they keep going on. It involves the use of fully remote teaching solutions for instruction or education that would otherwise be delivered face-to-face or as blended or hybrid courses, and that will return to that format once the crisis or emergency has abated. The primary objective in these circumstances is not to recreate a robust educational ecosystem, but rather to provide temporary access to instruction and instructional supports in a manner that is quick to set up and is reliably available during an emergency crisis. Okay, so the point here is that we have to bear in mind that what we are doing is not forever. Okay, in some months, hopefully, we'll get back to normal. We'll get back to face-to-face lessons, and all those things will not be done again. Hopefully. All right. That does not mean that the things that we learn to do here with this emergency remote teaching cannot be used or reshaped in order for us to use them with our face-to-face students anymore. Okay, so some of the demands we had, okay, the remote teaching brought us, okay, some of those demands. So these situations, they require creative problem solving. So we teachers, when we were told not to teach our students face-to-face anymore, we had to think about different solutions, okay? And here, I always have the teachers who were my students that worked with the public sector, okay? They did not have fancy platforms to work with the students. They didn't have Zoom. They didn't have this Disal platform to teach, to broadcast their lessons. Okay, they did not have those learning management systems. They had to improvise. They had to use FaceTime. They have to use Facebook. They had to use Instagram. They have to use even TikTok. They have to use WhatsApp, their private phone lines, in order to reach students. So they had to be very creative in order to try to keep teaching. Okay, so we have to be able to think outside standard boxes to generate various possible solutions that help meet the new needs for our learners and communities. It demands us, this kind of situation demands from us quick thinking about delivery modes, methods, and media, specifically as they map to rapidly changing needs and limitations in resources, such as teacher support and training. So we did not have time. We did not have time to say, okay, so now we have a pandemic. Let's think of a whole procedure, a distance education procedure. Okay, let's think. What do we need? What kind of no? They have, okay, today you cannot teach your students. What are you going to do tomorrow morning? How are you going to reach your students in the next day, in the next afternoon? Okay, so that demanded a lot from us. That demanded a lot from our creativity. Okay, and then we had consequences and possibilities this situation presented us with. The rapid approach necessary for emergency remote teaching may diminish the quality of the courses delivered. Okay, because we cannot assume that, okay, the 2-day solution that we found, that we thought about, would be as good as our lessons. Okay, of course there were some quality breakdowns, though. Of course there were some quality issues here. Okay, a full course development project can take months when done properly. The need to just get in online is in direct contradiction to the time and effort normally dedicated to developing a quality course. Online courses created in this way should not be mistaken for long-term solutions, but accepted as a temporary solution to an immediate problem. Especially concerning is the degree to which the accessibility of learning materials might not be addressed during ERT. Focus on the design of learning environments that are flexible, inclusive, and student-centered to ensure that all students can access and learn from the course materials, activities, and assignments were also something that we needed to think about. So, in other words, we try to mend the situation. Okay, we try to do something in order to keep our students with us. Okay, we had lots of work. Okay, somebody wrote here, my work has doubled, tripled, exponentially. Okay, I'm a teacher. My wife is a teacher, and we many many days we worked morning, afternoons, and nights. No weekends at all. Okay, because we had hundreds of homework to correct. Okay, so we had lots of things to do, and we did lots of things. Okay, but again, some of the things were not quality. Okay, were not perfect, but they were the best we could do, and we need to celebrate that. Okay, we need to have this in mind. Food for thought. One of the things that came to my mind when I was preparing it, and I felt I had to share with you. The use of technological tools do not imply good educational practices. Okay. In other words, people are not teaching quality lessons just because they are using technology. You can use technology to teach extremely traditional and boring lessons. Okay. So one thing that we have to think of is, what kind of lessons have we been teaching lately? Okay, what kind of lessons, what kind of activities, what kind of things are we providing our students with? Okay, that's very important. All right. But if we think of this whole bunch of information and things I've been telling you in the last, I don't know what time. Woo! How about you? We have 10 more minutes. Okay, we have to think of we have to think about one common, also about the positive aspects we have in this situation. Okay. For example, okay, we had this pandemic, we have this crisis, we've been working as hell a lot. Okay, my hair is getting even more grayer. And anyway, but we have positive aspects to think about. Let's consider them. Teachers had to become more familiar with technology. Some teachers who were extremely resistant towards the use of tech tools have surrendered to the benefits that a well-thought and planned use of technology can bring to the learning process. Okay, nowadays, every teacher knows a little bit about technology. They knows how to upload a picture. They know how to send an email. They know how to exploit WhatsApp in order to have an oral activity. Okay, they know how to do that because they were forced to do. They had to go and try something out. That's positive. And again, the use of technology tools in this emergency remote teaching practice have reviewed the importance of clear objectives and planning. Because sometimes teachers would do hundreds of things, but if they did not have that objective set, they would not see the result, and that was very frustrating. So this importance of having a clear objective and planning became very important and came out again. Okay, and here we have a common point, an intersection point between distance education and remote teaching, the importance of clear objectives and planning. Okay, if you don't have those, okay, that's going to be even harder for you to work with this emergency remote teaching. So the one of the main aspects that I'd like to emphasize in here in this webinar is think of a clear objective and plan it ahead. Okay, just don't do things out of the blue. No, think, what is the objective that I have? And then think what you're going to do. Okay, in order to help you do that, I thought of a possible framework for your planning. Okay, what kind of framework is this? A framework of work. Okay, so when thinking about what you're going to do with your online students in this emergency remote teaching time, okay, think of an objective, preferably a communicative objective, since we're talking about teaching English, teaching languages, teaching. So what kind of objective are you going to present students with? Think of the tools and materials, the materials and tools that you need and the materials and tools that are available, okay? Because if you only think of the tools and materials that you need, you may have a science fiction lesson, okay, in which you're going to plan and need lots of things that students do not have access to, okay? So think about this. Input and teaching, how to introduce the subject, having in mind the materials and tools available. What kind of practice are you going to have? Think of desired and possible practices. Okay, think of an ideal word, but also think of what it is possible for students to accomplish. Okay, and try to have more and less controlled practices in mind. Okay, sometimes you start with a more controlled practice, and then you let students produce more freely. Okay, of course, you all know that. Personalization possibilities. How meaningful can this practice be to our students' realities and local contexts? Okay. It's nice to talk about the London Tower, the London Bridge, etc. But how about talking about the bridge which is close to your student's house? Okay. Learning outcomes, which is directly related to the objectives and important for evaluation. If you don't have a very clear objective, you have no way to evaluate your students and know and assess if they learned something. Okay, and in the end, after the lesson, it's always a good idea to reflect about what worked well and what did not work. This reflection on action will help you plan better tasks in the future. You thought that Marcus would not talk about reflection. For those who know me, that's not possible. Okay, so after you've done this, after you have taught your lesson, your online lesson, your online activities, your emergency remote teaching, think of what went well. Okay, think of what did not work. Okay, I'm going to go through very quickly. I thought of an example. Okay, as it's an example, and we have private school teachers, we have language institute teachers, we have I don't know, many different kinds of teachers in here. I thought of a general example. Please forgive me if my example is not suitable for you. Okay, it's just a way of kind of showing you what I think when I talk about this framework. Okay, some people see a framework, oh, that's very complicated, I cannot do it, that's not for me. No, it's for you. Okay, so I thought of an example. Oops, here, objective, very clear, a very simple one. Have your students practice giving and understanding directions. Okay, it's a communicative task, it's a communicative objective. And it's an objective that may happen with your students someday in their lives. Okay, what tools and materials do you have or can be used? For example, Google Maps or WhatsApp, for example. Okay, if they are accessing content via a tablet or via cell phone or via computer, they have access to Google Maps and maybe WhatsApp, for example, or Waze. Okay. How to introduce the subject? I thought, how about having a brainstorming? Places students usually go to, which are near the school, that will help you to introduce vocabulary and functions needed for the activity. Okay? Personalization. Ask students to look for the addresses of other places of their choice, not the ones you thought. Okay, in their neighborhood, for example. Not always do we live near the school or near the students, so sometimes we don't know much about what's going on in their neighborhood. Okay, so let them go look for the addresses and places they go to by Funk or the gas station or the restaurant or the drugstore, their neighborhood. Okay. Then input in teaching. Review the communicative functions needed for the oral activity. And here I thought of some simple ones. I mean, you may have other exponents. So is there a bakery or a hospital near here? Is there a gas station near here? Is there a McDonald's? I love McDonald's. Near here. Yes, there is one at, and then they give the address. I'm sorry, I don't know, because sometimes they don't know. I think there is one across from the hospital near the gas station, but I'm not sure because sometimes they are not sure. Okay, so very simple set of a dialogue that can be taught communicatively. Okay. Yes, you have. Yes, please, I would like to know. And practice. Have students practice the dialogue using the places and addresses you have selected previously for the controlled practice. Okay. Later, you may ask students to think of different places which are meaningful and part of their life and ask each other for directions. Okay. So again, if you're using Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, FaceTime, or any other platform, they can practice it online as we are in here. If you have but if it's not possible, sometimes the students have a WhatsApp group, and you are in the WhatsApp group with your students. Public school teachers, most of them have created WhatsApp groups for each lesson, each group they have. Okay, it's I told you that we need to celebrate what we have been doing. We do need and to value that. But sometimes if you do not have all those fancy platforms, you can have students exchange, interact and exchange audio message via a WhatsApp audio, or even videos. Okay, so that's only a brief example of how we can use that framework to have a clear objective in mind, to plan a feasible activity for students, and then to have a way to assess, was it profitable, could they learn it? Okay, hope you find it nice. Okay, but before we go, and we have a long road ahead, okay, sometimes it's more winding road, I'd like to call your attention to some reflections. Okay, before we go, there is no right choice. There are some possibilities that may be feasible or not according to your context, internet band, and devices available. Okay, we need to have in mind that we are far from an ideal situation. Ooh, I'm sorry about the typo in here. But we are dealing with the unknown, so we need to understand that there is no magic trick that will work for everyone. Each teacher will need to find his or her own solutions, and those solutions will vary a lot. Third, we need to focus not only in our teaching, but we need to focus on our students learning to celebrate that. If it's not the same of what was planned, even it's different from what you used to have in your face-to-face lessons. Okay. Finally, what weapons can we use to fight this war? When I used weapons, I could say, oh, you can use apps, books, the internet. But I think that the best weapon we can use is empathy and intelligence. Okay, I guess you all have those. So more than ever, we need to put ourselves in our students' shoes so as to have a better idea of what to do. That demands intelligence. Okay. Just like ourselves, students are facing something new. Learning is not easy. I bet you know that. And it may become even harder if we consider that out of the blue, they are doing it from a distance, physically away from you, from their peers, from school. We just have to bear in mind and not forget they are fighting the same battle that we are. They are in the same side. Okay, so I think if we have this in mind, I think our life is going to be a lot better, a lot easier. Okay, we still have to work a lot. Okay, but I think we have will be more relaxed when planning those activities and teaching our students. Okay. Well, I don't think we have time for questions, okay? So I'm sorry about that. I'll see if I can get those questions put in here, all right, so that I can talk to you later. But thank you very much. Again, visit Faculdade Cultura Inglesa site. There are more courses for you there. There are some free courses, online courses for you in a partnership we have with Cambridge. So try to visit and try to discover things over there. Okay. You just click there. Thank you, Disal, for putting the ad in here. And thank you all for being here. Thank you very, very, very much. It was very nice talking to you. Bye-bye.